It's very hard to tell, Kelly. I mean, you could make a story one way or the other. If Trump hangs on, actually is reelected, I think that there was a lot of friction between the two of them. And you could imagine that when Powell's job comes up for renewal in 2022, Trump might be looking for a loyalist. On the other hand, it's hard to see what other alternative policy some other chairman could do that's as friendly as the current chairman's. The same is true if Joe Biden ends up being the president. What different policy would the Fed pursue? The additional consideration in a Biden presidency is that he will have to get his candidate through a Republican Senate. That perhaps might weigh on his mind and could perhaps be a point in favor of renominating Jay Powell.
Do you think it's more likely than not that Powell keeps his job, Greg?
Just don't know. There's too many uncertainties out there.
Fair enough. It's the early days to be asking you about that. So let's move on and talk about the decision that's coming up in just a couple of minutes that has been like the least important thing on investors' minds today. Any surprises in store? We spoke with Julia Coronado top of the hour, who said look for them to kind of lay out the QE plans that they may have into next year.
I think that's what we're going to be looking for. I doubt we'll get it in the statement, but I think that the Q&A could be interesting in that regard. Look, our sense is that there's two things that have happened basically since the September meeting. The pandemic has got a lot worse, and that means that perhaps we should be bracing for more lockdowns. But right now, that's not happening, and the economic data actually looks pretty good. So that, at one level, takes some pressure off the Fed. On the negative side, stimulus talks broke down. That said, the Senate leader, Mitch McConnell, does seem to be open to doing a deal during the lame duck, so maybe it's not all bad news there. If, in fact, we don't get any stimulus, and if the economy starts to roll over because of what we're seeing on the pandemic, you're going to see increased pressure on the Fed to move. And those are the kinds of questions, the kind of contingent questions that I would like to hear Powell answer this afternoon. So two possibilities. They could increase the volume of quantitative easing from 120 billion a month, or one thing that I know a lot of folks on the street would like to see them do is change the mix of bonds they buy more towards the 10-year and longer duration, and that might have an outsized impact on the long end. I think the pushback you'll get, at least from some folks at the Fed, is what good would it do given how low rates are right now? The consistent message from the Fed all along has been fiscal policy is so much more powerful right now.
Right. And to that point, Greg, and finally, as Bill Dudley suggested in a piece this week, maybe it was last week, is the Fed out of bullets? I mean, are they getting all of this applause because they've done the very best that they can do? But if they had to do more, would they be able to help the economy?
I think they are pretty much out of bullets. I mean, look, they've got interest rates at zero, and they've said they will not go negative. They've got the long-term bond yield down below 1%. I mean, if they could get it to zero, what good would that do? They do have a few of the credit programs left over from the CARES Act, most importantly, the Main Street Lending Program, which has had very little take-up. So in conjunction with the Treasury, you could see them easing the terms for that. But the issue there really, I think, is lack of demand. So I just don't think there is much that they can do. I don't expect Powell to say that. His last go around, he just kept talking about how powerful their guidance was and how many more tools they had yet. And I think as a Fed chairman, you kind of have to say that because you're not allowed to say there's nothing we can do. But there's not a lot they can do.
Exactly. I think we all know that when he says, no, we've got tons of options, that you just nod and go, okay, all right, sure, if you say so.
Yeah, you're looking behind.
Usually works, though.
I don't see it.
Yeah. Greg, thanks very much. Appreciate it. Greg Ip with his thoughts on the Fed meeting coming up in just a couple of minutes.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.